Well, welcome to Schenectady Today, in and around the Capital Region. We are so happy you're joining us today. We have really a great show, and I'm just going to tell you who's coming up. We're going to be talking about the Lyme Action Network. We're going to be talking about the Epilepsy Foundation. We're going to be talking about the Civic Theater Players in Schenectady, which are doing the 5th of July. Northern Rivers is with us. We're going to talk about the foster program in fostering. We have an author on talking about her research on a book that she did. And then we will also be talking about the costumer and how that's associated with the Proctor Theater. But right now, I want to let you know our breaks. For our first break, we're going to be doing a break that is going to be about the, if you weren't at my 1000th show, this is a video that they showed of kind of a recap of over the last 19 years. We're in our 20th year, by the way. So we're going to start right out with our first guest. Right next to me, I have Christina Fisk. Next to her is Holly Ahern. And Christina is the president of the Lyme Action Network and vice president over there, Holly?
That's right.
Yeah. And you're also a microbiologist?
Right.
Yeah, cool. I like that.
Thanks.
You know,
I don't usually get that.
You only would get that from a science major.
That's right.
So, anyway, but let's talk about the Lyme Action Network. What are your expectations? What are you doing to kind of create some buzz?
Well, probably everybody has heard of Lyme disease. But what everybody might not know is that Lyme disease is sort of a borrelial infection, a bacterial infection, wrapped up in political controversy. And
Politics? We bring politics into Lyme disease? A little old tick?
I'm afraid so. And we came to that realization sort of the hard way, as we had family members who contracted Lyme disease, and as we got deeper and deeper into it, we discovered that a lot of the information that is regularly dispensed by the medical establishment is incorrect, it's antiquated, and in some cases it's very dangerous. So what we've committed to do, is to try to promote more accurate information based on current research and to inform the general public that we have educational programs. And so our hope is to get the word out, as well as to advocate on the patient's behalf in areas of policy, such as legislative reform, state and federal levels.
Oh my goodness, very interesting. Holly, what do you see as the misinformation that's coming out? Because certainly, you know, I understand all about Lyme disease and it's misdiagnosed on many occasions. What do you see is that the medical establishment is giving misinformation out?
The misinformation is mostly based on a misunderstanding of the biology of the microorganisms that are causing this disease. So, you know, Lyme disease is only one of several tick-borne diseases, and
we've heard about the new one that they've just discovered up in the Saratoga area.
Right, and there are several that have already been here: Anaplasma, Ehrlichia, Bartonella, Babesia. And one bite of a tick could give you more than one thing. And
oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. And many people who are ill with Lyme disease also have a secondary infection that never gets diagnosed and never gets treated properly, which can lead to long-term effects.
So if they find out you have Lyme disease, they quit looking?
Pretty much. And to find out that you have Lyme disease is based on two criteria which are not very good indicators of the disease, one being the notion that a bullseye rash appears as an
that's what we've always heard.
But that's not true. And the other is the blood tests that were developed for this disease 40 years ago are highly inaccurate, over 50% false negative rates.
Oh, I hate that.
And so if your blood test is negative, it's highly likely that you don't get a diagnosis, which can lead to longer term
And it
disease.
is treatable with antibiotics.
Well, that's also not entirely true either.
Okay.
Newest research within the past 5 years show that the standard treatment of 2 weeks of antibiotics, or sometimes 4 weeks of antibiotics, just drives them into hiding. And when the antibiotics are complete, they come back out.
They come back in a vengeance.
It's more like tuberculosis as a disease than it is like strep throat, which is how the medical community sort of views it.
Yeah. It's interesting because now, to my understanding, you know, you get a tick, you look down, and there's the tick. But that is not true. Those ticks can leave, I guess. Is that correct?
And they like to bite you in places where you can't see them. So
oh, that's not so good.
No, they crawl to the dark nether regions and hide out there.
That's nasty.
They have to be attached for a long time. That's how they feed. But there are a lot of people who, with Lyme disease, who never remember being bitten by a tick, and most certainly did not recall seeing any kind of rash on their bodies.
Well, especially if it was in the Netherlands, where
Yes.
Or in the hair.
Yeah.
or in the hair. I never thought about
That's kind
that.
of another region.
So what is the best prevention? Because first of all, you don't want to get bit by this tick. Is there a spray you can use? Is there clothing or a mallet? You know, those.
Prevention is the best thing that you can be informed about. You need to be sure that your body is covered if you're out and about. They recommend light-colored pants so that if a tick is crawling up,
You can see it.
We do recommend the use of sprays. There are both sprays that contain DEET or things that are all natural that work pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tick checks afterwards are very important, especially for children.
There's a country song that.
Tick check.
Yeah. Can I check you for ticks? Yeah. Okay, good.
It's especially important for children because you know they're out and climbing and running around in the grass.
And not all ticks carry the disease. I mean, they have to be. And how is it transmitted? It goes to deer, because it's the deer tick, isn't it?
So that's sort of a misconception that deer are the major.
See what you
problem.
learn?
I know. Mice in our area.
Mice?
The white-footed mouse, the regular old mice that you see in your yard, are
Those
the
cute little mice?
reservoir of the disease. Chipmunks and squirrels in other parts of the country. Deer are just like us, so they're the thing that the adults feed on when they get hungry, and we are too. They do not contribute to keeping the disease in nature. So it's the small rodent population that, when that population gets bigger, we have more Lyme disease cases and other tick-borne diseases.
I was not
as
aware
well.
that you would get. See, and the main thing is we have to think about is the ticks are not born with Lyme disease. They aren't born with any of these bacterial infections. They pick them up from
The mice.
the mice.
Their first meal is those small ground-dwelling rodents, because they're born in the dirt. They find the first warm-blooded thing they can find, and it's from those animals that they pick up the
I'll be darned.
microbes.
Yeah, see, I did not realize it was the mice were the little, so I need to get a mousetrap.
Several.
Several.
And something else I wanted to mention was your pets. So you should check yourself, check your kids, but you should also check your pets.
I
because
have found
pets can
ticks
bring them into the
on
house, right.
dogs.
Yep.
You know, because you'll be petting them and all of a sudden you feel this little lump.
Right.
And so what's the best way? Are they like chiggers? Can you pull them out? What do you do?
Yep, you can pull them out. So when you're rubbing your pet, or even after, you could use a fine-tooth grooming tool to find them.
You don't want the head to stay in though, right?
Right, so you should use fine-tip tweezers or a tool like the tick twister, which is
Tick twister.
tick twister, right? It looks like a
Who
crowbar
knew?
that you
Who knew?
twist. I know.
It works. It works.
It does on animals, and that helps you remove them quickly. And then if you're looking for something to do with that tick after you pull it off, the best thing to do is to submit it to torture and research. So there are places that are looking to look inside those ticks and find out what they have. And you
didn't want to know this.
Well, you know, ticks have wreaked havoc on a lot of people,
I know they
including
have.
our families. And so my attitude is payback. You know, it's payback. You're going off to be
Okay,
tested.
so Christina has addressed the fact that we need prevention.
Yep.
In other words, take care of yourself, light-colored clothing, to use DEET spray or some kind of a spray, and also to inspect after you come in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Your organization is also doing a run, so we wanted it to raise money. So tell us quickly about that.
To help underwrite our educational efforts, we're having a Lyme Away 5K on October 22nd, and it's a USATF sanctioned run in Coles Woods in Glens Falls. And the start
In the
time,
woods? Wait a minute.
Big
I'm
wide
getting a
trail.
mixed message here.
Big wide trails.
Wide trails.
Oh, okay.
And the race time is at 10, but all the information is on our website and also on the Lyme Away 5K, itsyourrace.com.
Okay, good. So we've got the word out. If you're a runner, you know how you can raise a little help to raise a little money for the Lyme Action Network. And also, you know, find out a little bit more about Lyme disease and what it is. And I know that many times it's misdiagnosed. People get sick, but they don't realize, like you say, that sometimes you didn't see that bullseye rash, or maybe it never was there to begin with.
Right.
Maybe you missed the tick. He took a flight and went somewhere else, down Acapulco or something.
Right.
But anyway, we've been speaking to two experts on the Lyme disease, and we're going to find out a little bit more about that. If you go to their webpage, I'm sure you'll find out a little bit more information. And also, maybe you should go to their run and find out how you can talk to them in person.
We'll be there.
We'll
Good.
be there.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yep,
We're going to take a quick break. Our break is, if you missed our 1000th show, this is a looking back tape that we did. And we're going to be next talking about epilepsy. Stay tuned. Got everything in?
Seersucker soup on a hot summer day.
Thanks so much, Holly. Yeah.
Coffee comes back in a nerve-wracking way. The dishes and laundry take the garbage out. What a day, what a day, what a day. Kids got their quizzes and I've got a date. I can't meet the deadline, I'm already late. The cat needs feeding and the car needs oil. What a day, what a day, what a day. Looking for sunshine without any rain. Didn't the good times come with some pain? You gotta get going, start over again, 'cause life's not waiting for you.
Good morning, Schenectady. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And that even if you're not on the air, you're in the building and you're doing lots of good things. But thanks anyway.
Turn on paint.
Anybody can do this, right? Even
Anybody
I
can do this. Even you can do this.
Okay, you're going
Matter
to
of fact, yeah, sure. I'll let you do it.
Oh, no. And what is he doing with his tongue? Is it the same thing he's smelling with it? I can't believe the length of that.
Congratulations and 500 shows.
How are you? It's a pleasure to see you.
I know, and
Doing another great job.
We keep
great.
trying. We just keep on trucking. If you look behind me, you'll see that we are in the historic Proctor's Theater, and we are so fortunate here to have with us John Sayles, who is a director, a screenwriter, an author.
Making our efforts to curb that vandalism.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful park. Well, you saw Mike Sieber there, and you also saw my interview with John Sayles, film director, which was really interesting. I had a great time with that one. But right now I have two guests, and we're going to be talking about the Epilepsy Family Conference and the Epilepsy Foundation. Next to me I have Erica DeNicola Scherer, and then next to her is Susan Krasnowitz. Kaczynski, I'm sorry. Epilepsy Foundation, what are you doing? We heard it from the Lyme Action Network. What are you doing with the Epilepsy Foundation to get the word out?
Well, we want to raise awareness and educate people about epilepsy. There's many different kinds of seizures, and
there's a grand mal and petite mal.
Correct, yep. Yeah. And Erica actually is our health educator, and she goes out into the community, schools, businesses, to educate about epilepsy, what to do in case of a seizure. We offer first aid training, we offer support groups, counseling services. We have a great parent network who share experiences and provide support for each other. And we do service coordination and advocacy.
And you're taking it out of the darkness, because so many times if somebody had epilepsy, it was like, oh, they have epilepsy.
Right.
But you can function, everybody functions perfectly with medication and with knowledge of what triggers it, whether it's the flashing light, and you hear that when you go to the theater sometimes, strobe lights or things like that. So you're the educator. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the thing to understand about epilepsy is that it is incredibly individualized. So while there are certainly people who are well controlled with medications, meaning that they can be seizure free as long as they're on whatever therapy or medication they're using.
And they're having newer drugs that,
so there are some people that can achieve seizure freedom and live, normal lives. They can drive, they can work without any sort of issue. But then, of course, there are individuals who have more severe forms of epilepsy where their life is very disrupted by how frequent their seizures are and how severe their seizures are. So epilepsy should really be thought of as a spectrum condition.
Like autism.
Exactly, similar to autism. No two people who have epilepsy are impacted exactly the same way by it.
And I know that many times you see somebody kind of phasing out in a room, you know, they kind of go dull or something, and that could be a petit mal seizure.
Yep. Yep. The updated term for that is called absence seizures.
Absence?
Yeah, it's spelled like absence, but we say it like absence.
Okay, good. No, I hadn't heard that. Yeah. Okay.
Fancier, I guess. But yeah, it could just be a few seconds where someone just stares off. There's a lapse in their awareness. But after those few seconds, they just come right back and can go back to whatever they were doing.
Have they developed any surgery that that goes into the brain where they, you know, do a little zapping? I mean, I know that I've seen some of that with the MRIs. Now they can kind of pinpoint what happens.
Yeah, so there are resective surgeries that people can do if they can pinpoint where in the brain the seizure is originating from, try to remove that and see if it'll stop the seizures.
Yeah. Those are for the severe cases, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
But then there's also devices that they can have implanted surgically. So for example, there's what's called a vagal nerve stimulator, and it's like a small battery that goes under the chest wall, and it has wires that wrap around the vagus nerve, and it's functioning sort of like a pacemaker for your heart, except for your brain.
Okay.
So it sends out
a signal,
a dose of electrical stimulation at some sort of set interval, which then stimulates the brain with the hopes of
amazing. Isn't that amazing?
Controlling any abnormal brain activity that might be occurring.
And what success have they with dogs that sometimes can sense seizures? Is that? I mean, you hear about that.
Yeah, you hear about that, and we get many calls to the agency asking about therapy dogs that can detect seizures. There's not really much empirical evidence to support that, but you know, therapy dogs still play a really huge role with some epilepsy cases. And
I mean, you've heard about it, so you kind of, I thought I'd had to ask you. So tell us, Susan, about your family conference and who should go to that?
Well, it's open to everyone, and actually Erica would be best to explain the conference. She's organizing the conference.
Tag, you're it, Erica.
So, yes, our family conference is next Thursday, October
Well, let's
19th.
do the date because you never know when this is shown.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's October 19th. From 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and we're going to be covering new therapies, memory and cognition, and emotional health and well-being in individuals.
So this is
with
like
epilepsy.
a support for the family so that they understand a little bit more about.
It's so that they can learn more about these topics, and it's so that they can meet some of our staff who attend, and they can connect with some experts, and they can network with each other and meet other families.
Isn't that so important, being able to network? I find that, you know, it's like you're in a room and you finally know that you're all kind of have something in common.
And you're not alone.
You're not alone, exactly. But you also have to raise money. So I have to address this because they're having an event coming up in March. Mark your calendar, March 10th, right next to my birthday. Annual Confections in Chocolate fundraising. And we have some photos, so tell us a little bit about that.
It's as great as it sounds. As Director of Development, I do the fundraising for the organization so we can provide our programs and services. Confections and Chocolate, it's our 30th anniversary of having the gala.
Oh my gosh.
And it has the cocktail hour, the sit-down dinner, the silent
chocolate
and
cocktails?
live, silent and live auctions, and of course the highlight.
Look at those.
Yes,
look at that.
The
dessert.
highlight of the evening are the luscious chocolate desserts that are donated by local pastry chefs and bakeries and restaurants. And
you get to eat them, or do you just buy them?
Oh, you get to eat them.
Oh, okay.
You can try. We get over 20 businesses that donate, and so there's all different kinds, and we give recognition for each business that did donate.
Sure.
Their name is right next to it.
Yeah.
Yep. And we actually do, the event is themed each year, so we actually have a contest. If a baker would like to create a cake that is based on the theme of the event, this year's theme is Diamonds and Pearls. So I'm excited to see what
they can do a lot with those little diamonds and pearls, and they're edible, a lot of them.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's good. They do
great.
it in crystalline sugar or something.
Right.
God, good thing this isn't a diabetic association. But if you want to learn more about diabetes here, about epilepsy, and you would like to talk to someone, you can go to their website. I'm sure that if you give them a phone call, they'll be able to talk to you a little bit about where you fit in and how you might want to come to the family conference and learn more about it. And this conference, of course, would be for anyone who is interested in epilepsy and also has a family member or a friend who have epilepsy. It gives you a better understanding that so we don't put that in the shadows.
Right.
I like to bring things out to the
That's why we want
front.
people to be comfortable talking about
Exactly.
it. You're not alone. There are many people out there. You can't tell you have epilepsy.
Oh.
So we're there for the support.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Erica
you.
and
Thank you.
Susan, for being here today. Very illuminating what you've been talking about. I loved your with the research that's going on.
Oh,
Very interesting. We're going to take a quick break. In this next break, there was a big thing in the Gazette and other newspapers about GE, but Helen Carini was always an advocate for the members who retired and were getting like nothing. So this is some of her video, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the 5th of July. Stay tuned. Good. Oh.
All right, we are back live in 5, 4.
Remember Helen Carini?
2.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Well, that was Helen Carini, a good friend of mine. We shared a birthday, actually. So anyway, Joe Fava, you are the director of the 5th of July. Not the 4th of July, the 5th of July.
Well, it starts on the 4th of July, and then we go to the 5th of July. It's 2 days.
Okay.
It's 2 days.
And it's a
actually.
family's kind of...
Well, it's kind of a very interesting play. It's Lanford Wilson. He wrote a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
The first play he wrote was called Tally's Follies, which takes place in a boathouse, and Sally Friedman meets, Sally Tally meets Max Friedman.
Say that 3 times
I know.
fast.
They fall in love. There's another play he wrote, which I don't remember the name of it, I never have, which takes place on the hill, in the house, the same time as this play takes place.
Oh.
The play I'm doing, the 5th of July, takes place 30 years later. Max Friedman has passed away, and the family is getting together to spread his ashes. But there's all this other stuff that's involved. Kenny is a Vietnam veteran, and he's been injured. And there's Gwen, who's a rock singer who's come back to visit. They were friends when they were young. There's June. It's all this family relationships and complications, which actually, if you grew up in our time, you can relate to very easily.
I'm sorry, we got that fly again.
It's okay. It's a wonderful play.
I'm looking forward to it.
Really, I did this about 30 years ago.
Oh, you've done this play
I
before.
directed this play at Albany Civic Theater.
Okay.
With a fellow named Kurt Richardson and Chris Foster, who you probably
I know Chris,
You know
yeah.
Chris. They were quite young, and they played the young parts then. And I've got, of course, 2 young guys now playing the 2 parts. And Joanne Westerveld, who's in it, a real veteran of the theater. Christine Lafredo. Michael Glancis, who's a young fellow who's playing the lead. Sarah DeRocha, who's from the high school.
Nice.
Joanne Westerveld, who I said, Andrew Vrodman, and David Quinosis, who's
Got a good cast.
I got a great cast.
Yeah.
I've always been very lucky with my cast.
Yeah, and you know one thing you're doing. I'm not who's involved with it, but I love your murder mysteries, and I'm going.
Right.
I got my tickets
right.
already.
Well, I brought this because I wanted to say that we're doing one.
A Scream? What is it? A Scream?
It's a star of stage and screen.
Yeah, I know. I love
and
that.
it takes place October 27th.
I have my ticket.
It's at the Water Edge Lighthouse. It's $60. And it's dinner, and the food is really good.
Very good.
And the audience has a great time with the murder mysteries.
Yeah, because it's a real involved. You are involved in this whole.
We're doing
experience.
2 of them this year. We're doing 2 of them there. We may be doing more.
Yeah. Well, they're a hit.
Yeah, the audiences really love them.
Yeah, and you get a meal and you have some fun.
And they usually sell out. So get your tickets. I think on your website you're going to show how to buy all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're also doing in December. Benita Zahn's group, we're doing a show called Broads That Bell, Broads
Yeah, they do.
And that's a fundraiser. It'll be cocktails and dinner, whatever. We're going to put that all together.
Yeah, Benita Zahn.
And now we can go all year with our theater. We never used to, but we have all air conditioning now. Unfortunately, our elevator will not be ready for this production.
Doggone it.
No, it's ready. It's just that we can't use it. It's all done. But it will be ready definitely for the second show.
Well, you have to go through the process of getting this stamped and this stamped and that stamped and
everything is just about. I would say we're 80%, 85% to 90% there.
90%.
It's actually 90%. We just have to do a lot of. We need a stair railing. That's why we can't open. But
you want me to come over and put one in for you?
Right. And things need to get done. So, but anyway, our season is up now, and you can subscribe. I think it's the best deal.
It's the best deal in town.
I mean, you get 5 shows. It's 5 shows here for I think it's $60.
Yeah, I know.
Even know. It's so low. I don't even.
Yeah,
remember.
I know. Really.
You get 5
Throw in
shows.
a donation when you buy your tickets.
Right. And we're doing our next show is As Bees in Honey Drowned, and then we're doing An Inspector Calls.
Oh, I love that one.
Other Desert Cities, which is
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And School for Lies.
Oh yeah, that's a
now
standard.
Also on October 29th. We're doing an original play, which was written by one of our actors, who's actually in this play, Robert McDuffie.
Really? He's good.
In the Darkness of Daylight, that's his show, and we're.
Is that going to be a reading?
It's a reading. It's a sort of a semi-stage reading, and then of course in March, which is a long way off, but The Ugly Duckling with children. It's from Saratoga Opera. We have there's another one we're doing, Buyer and Seller, too.
And now that you're year-round and you have the elevator.
Right. We are one of the 5 oldest continue operating theaters in the United States in the same location. Actually, when you come down, you're going to see our new front lobby. We got all new carpeting, new paint. It's really lovely, the new lobby. Thanks to the Schenectady Heritage Foundation with a very nice donation. And we also got an anonymous donation to redo all our front doors. So we're getting a lot of things done at the theater.
And they're volunteers. I mean, let's talk about that. Volunteers. I mean, this is an amazing.
Right.
I mean, I do a show once a week, with volunteers, but you guys have to have a volunteer like bam, bam, bam.
We do 5 shows plus all of our.
And
readings.
somebody's always taking the tickets, and somebody's.
It's very easy. If you buy a ticket, you want to change. You just call and they switch you to another night. There's no hassle. It's
very friendly group.
If you can't make that show, you want to make the next show, they'll work it out with you. It's
Are you still doing art displays?
No, we're not doing that anymore. But we're doing all of our posters.
Yeah. And what's really neat is when you go to the play, a lot of times you get to the intermission and you go, what'll I do? Well, you can go down, you have coffee, tea, cookies, there's water.
Of course, at the opening night, we have champagne and we have a cake we're 90 years old.
You're not 90, come on.
I'm getting close. I'm not far away.
And we're not going to admit to it anyway when it happens, right?
If it happens at all. But it's a great group. The theater in the Tri-Cities is like a family.
It is.
With all of the different groups. We all
are
know
so
one another.
blessed.
And we have so many wonderful groups that really perform, and the actors jump around into different groups, and so do the directors. But it's like a family. We all know one another. Yeah. And it all kind of works that way. It's really.
And I see Patrick White is directed the one over.
And he's doing a show for us. Chris Foster's directing a show for us, and he's doing a show over.
And so they kind of move around.
They move around and they do what they like to do, which is good.
I love it.
It's really a great.
I love it.
It's really great. We have the best plant in the Tri-Cities. We have a huge plant. I mean, it's amazing what we've got. To think that it's all volunteer and to think that it's all actually belongs to everybody. People say, who does it belong to? I say, well, it belongs to me, but it also belongs to you.
Exactly.
So it's part of the
gift.
It's part of the
gift.
community.
It's a gift. Right. They give.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, you're a gift. Yes. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to see a little bit more about Helen Carini. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Northern Rivers Family of Services and their foster program. Stay tuned. Really interesting. Okay, good. We're on. Yep, it's always interesting to look back at video of yourself. Oh my gosh. We don't want to do that, do we? Oh, there's a fly in here again. Oh, it's so disgusting. I'm going to bring a fly spray in next time. But anyway, right now I have Christine Meisner. She is a foster parent, and with her, she's brought her vice versa, Ricardo Phipps, who you're involved with the Northern Rivers. You are the program coordinator of that. And I saw this thing in the paper. I'm giving it to you. I don't know where you saw it there, but you can take that home with you. There was a new announcement in there.
Thank you.
But we're going to be talking about fostering. And who wants to start? Ricardo, do you want to start on talking about it? And then we're going to bring this lovely lady in who did some fostering and adoption.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So one of our biggest campaigns right now is Give New York a Home. And the website is givenewyorkahome.ny.org. And just want to let you know that we're in a crisis with our youth. You know, we need good homes for our children. We're currently looking for homes to care for children between birth age through 21 years old. We need a lot of good foster parents. You know, there's not enough resources in the communities. There's just an epidemic, and there's a huge need for good families. And today I brought Christine Meisner with us. She's one of our foster families. She's done an excellent job in caring for some of our kids. We recently had an adoption in which she was able to adopt 3 beautiful young ladies that we've been working with for several years. So, you know, foster care, in a nutshell, we really need good homes because there's a lot of children throughout New York State who need help. And together we can help make a difference in the lives of these children.
And we, you know, these are children. When you're talking about fostering, let's kind of talk about that, because sometimes fostering means that these children do have parents.
Correct.
And of course the courts are always, or usually or always, trying to get them to bring the family back together again. Is that correct? But it's not always possible.
Correct.
Because there may be issues where it's just not possible to do that. You have fostered how many children?
Almost 100 in 44 years.
100? And you fell in love with every one of them? Maybe there's 1 or 2.
Each child has a different situation, and that's what we have to work with.
And how long when you foster? Because we're looking for foster parents, so we'll get a picture of what it's like to be a foster parent. Do they, are they with you 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 months, a year, 3 years?
The goal is to keep the children with us and the families so that we can all work together to bring these children back, if at all possible, to their biological family. Not only are we helping the children, we're trying to help the children understand why they were in foster care, and it's our goal to help the parents and to reunite them. Sometimes that's not possible, and so we have to deal with the aftermath of the sadness and the displacement of the children.
It's got to be traumatic for kids, very traumatic to know that even if your parents are bad parents, I mean, and I use that loosely because it depends on what the situation is. Even if they're a bad parent, they're your parents, and that's your stability. You know, even if it's not a good situation, it's still your stability. You know, you have a bed and you have all this.
Well, that's the hope. that Northeast, tries to, or I should say Northern Rivers, what they try to project is that, we're here to help the families as one unit, and Northern Rivers is there to help.
Now, what was the longest that you've had to, not had to, but you fostered a child? Or
the longest has been 4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
And the 3 that you adopted, did you foster them first?
Yes, I did, 2.5 years.
And these are all siblings?
Yes, they are.
Now, will you continue to foster with 3 in your home?
Yes, we will continue in a respite type of program. Our goal is to concentrate on the 3 little girls and to meet their needs, and to definitely be there for Northern Rivers if they need a respite, if they have an emergency. That is definitely one of our goals.
And how often are there emergencies? Does the court call you and say, look, we need to get this child out of this situation immediately? Do they call you?
So we do get a variety of calls. Calls can come in at any time. We're a 24-hour on-call system, so we can get a call in the middle of the night. We tend to get a lot of calls from local Department of Social Service agencies, and there's severe needs for the children. Sometimes there's emergency removals, sometimes they're taken out their home in the middle of the night, sometimes they don't return home from school due to some of the neglect and challenges that they've dealt with at home.
Yeah, so you cover the whole gamut of situations then. Yes. As well. And your referrals come from agencies. It's not like I would call you up and say, you got to get this kid out of this home because this, right? I mean that. So
some of those calls we may redirect to a 911 situation, but most of the calls for placements tend to come from local Department of Social Service agencies.
Now, people who might be thinking about fostering are thinking, oh, well, how much is this going to cost me? So let's talk about finances, because it's, it's an important issue for many people who would be willing to do it but don't have the extra finances.
Sure. So, we're looking for individuals that have the time to care for some of these children. So time is number one. Time is probably the most important. There's a lot of appointments that are involved, medical appointments, counseling appointments, doctor's appointments, schools, CSE meetings. So there's a lot that's involved.
So someone who works at home could do that?
Someone that works at home can absolutely do that. That may be a best fit for them. Yeah. Absolutely. So there's a lot involved. You just have to have time, you have to have patience, and finances are always helpful to provide the children with the needed resources, food, clothing, shelter, etc.
Right.
Yes.
And so who pays for this?
So, what most of our families do who come in to help us for foster parenting, they tend to cover the expenses initially, and then they reimburse through our agency. Okay. And we work with the county to get those reimbursements. So you can get a little extra help. Correct. Exactly. I mean, because it's an important issue. I mean, food and absolutely, and a number of things. If you're fostering 3 children with three mouths to feed, it's going to be a little bit more. Yeah, it adds up quickly. Definitely. What happens if there's an animal in the family that has to be placed? Do you take a dog in? Or?
I've never.
Well.
Did I ask an uncomfortable question?
No, I've never had that asked.
Okay, just curious.
So, honestly, it's a case-by-case situation. Yeah, most of our kids don't tend to come with us with animals, so we really haven't, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We really haven't seen that too much yet.
Sorry about that fly. I think he's taken up home here because he's here every week, and I need somebody who can catch a fly. Can you catch a fly in a hand?
I'm not that fast. I'm sorry.
So anyway, so how do they find out? Well, first of all, you have, if they need to contact you, we have your websites up there. Awesome. But what would be the best way to find out if they're a fit, and how do you vet them, so to speak?
Sure. So 2 things. The best way to find out more information about the foster care process is to go to the GiveHopeAHomeNY.org website, and it'll give you more information on how to contact your local and regional office. We have several offices throughout different counties, so that'll tell you which office is the best for you to reach out to. And in terms of the process, so we have what's called MAP class, and that's Modeling Approach to Partnerships with Parenting. So that, really gets a chance to work with the potential foster families.
Get a feel.
Yes, get a feel for them, try and review some core processes to see if they're really cut out for this type of work, really getting to, assess the impact and know your families and work with the children and just really make a decision as to this is the right type of work for you. It's a lot.
Yeah, and there has to be a process. You can have a heart and want to do it and find out that it just is not going to work for you because of your schedule or other family members or things like that. So this is a good way to find out by going through it.
Absolutely.
So if you want to find out about fostering, which would be fabulous, we would love to have you foster, give Ricardo a call, and I'm sure that Christine would be happy to talk to you as well. To let you know what joy. Look at her face. She's always happy. She's been happy since she walked in here. So, I mean, this woman is just full of joy, and if you're one of those people that is full of joy, then you'll want to contact the Northern Rivers Family of Services and see if you can help out by fostering a child or two. Who knows? Talk to Ricardo. He'll tell you.
Please do.
Good.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming here.
Thank you
Good
for
to
having
meet you
us.
both. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to find out about a woman who tried to figure out what an inscription on a window meant. Stay tuned.
Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer.
On a hot summer day, coffee comes back in a nerve-wracking way. The dishes and laundry take the garbage out. What a day, what a day, what a day. Kids got their quizzes and I've got a date. I can't meet the deadline, I'm all
And here we are with Helen Carini. Helen, of course, one of my favorite people in the Schenectady County, is so active in trying to speak out for the pensioners and GE, among with many other issues that she's involved with in our community. And we're always pleased to have her on the show to talk about things in general at GE. So she has a GE employee pension trust, and she wants to talk about that a little bit. Well, Sylvie Breiber, she's part of a musical group as well, but actually what she's here about is to talk about her book. We got the book right up here on our thing, and also
it's my pleasure to be here to talk about it.
Well, this is an amazing story. Just briefly, she lives in the stockade. She found an inscription in an old. How old is the house?
About 1820s.
1820s. Yeah. Found an inscription on there and said, "I wonder what that is," which developed into a research project and a book.
Right.
So tell me a little bit.
Well, it really goes back to 4th grade. When we had a little school trip that walked around the stockade and got inside Mary Vanderbogart's house at 27 North Ferry, and I was totally smitten with the wide floorboards.
You never thought you'd going to buy that house, huh?
Oh. Well, we saw a couple others, and I just loved the stockade from that moment on. And so my dream was one day to live in the stockade. So we were looking around for houses, and we found one on Washington Avenue. 23 Washington, and we bought it, and the previous owners gave us papers about the house. They had already left, and they told us about this inscription engraved in the front parlor window.
Oh, it's in the front parlor window.
Yes, and Bob and I looked all around. We couldn't find it because we were expecting some really big scrawly thing, but we went back and we found it, and it's only 1/8 of an inch high, and it says, yes, very tiny, Grace T. Watkins, April 22nd, 1883. So we started.
And it was built in 1820, so 1883, yeah.
Yes, so we started wondering, who is this Grace T. Watkins, and what
she even
happened?
put her middle initial in.
Yes, that's right.
That was easier. Made it easy for you.
And so what happened on April 22nd, 1883? And fortunately, we were living right across the street. We're living right across the street from the Schenectady County Historical Site.
Wonderful, wonderful resource.
So I went right across the street and tried to find out who this woman was. And it turns out that when she put her inscription in the window, she was 48 years old. And that's how old I was when I moved in the house. So I started uncovering, yes, that's right. I started uncovering all of these coincidences, And then I
Did
would
you
turn
look
them
for
into
more
stories.
inscriptions? Did you figure 1/8 of an inch? Maybe
Yes,
she went in
yes.
the bedroom or...
Yes, I did. And I found another one in the same window. It's in the lower, it's 2/2 panes, and she inscribed it in the lower right one. And in that same pane is her son's inscription. His name was Delancey, and he was known by Del, and so it's D-E-L, and he put his inscription in the window too.
Oh my God.
So I learned so many fascinating things, like there's a dollhouse at the Historical Society. It's the second oldest in the country. It's 1834, and it was in our attic.
1920, 1834.
Right, 1834, and it was in our attic for 100 years. And the Watkins family, Grace, who put her inscription in, there was 100 years of the Watkins family living in our house, and one of them in 1960 gave it to the Historical Society. So you can see this dollhouse that was in our attic. And also, Grace, who put her signature in our window, her portrait is also at the Historical Society when she was 3 years old.
Why would there have been a portrait of her? Because, I mean, no photography maybe, and then they just got...
Well, I learned that Grace was a prominent Schenectadian.
See,
and,
there you go.
Lived in the house, which is now the English Garden Bed and Breakfast. And I just wanted to say that there's a lot of different stories. It was so many coincidences that I didn't have to have the help of fiction. It's all true. And I kept researching and talking to my neighbors. So they had been in my house through the years, and then I'd learn something, and then I'd go across the street and then research it. But I have to tell you, this was another coincidence. I had a gardener come to help us. The weeds got out of control. So
your house too, huh?
So he started weeding, and we started talking, and I said, Mike, well, what do you do? He said, well, really, I'm a photographer, and at this moment in time, I had not a photographer for my book. So we got talking, and the gardener, became the photographer for my book.
So you have, there's photos in the book.
Yes, lots of photos. There's
Okay.
a photo of our
Victorian
house. Yes, it's just loaded with photos.
Yeah. Oh,
The
these are
doll
wonderful.
house,
So this is a
and,
historic book.
Yes, and it's all about the stockade and St. George's and our neighbors.
Oh,
and,
the photos are amazing in here.
So Michael Deanna took all of those photos.
Oh my, and
we had a
portraits, you got the
wonderful time.
portraits too.
Yes, the portraits that hung. There's Grace herself. Maybe do you want to hold that up?
Yeah, look at that.
There's Grace at 3 years old.
Yeah,
and she grew up in the English Garden Bed and Breakfast. That house is there. You can actually stay in where Grace grew up.
That's amazing.
So I started turning these coincidences into stories and reading them to my friends, and they would get goosebumps.
Excuse me while I read a while.
Sorry. Well, you're going to get a copy.
Oh my God, this is wonderful. Yeah.
So my friends started getting goosebumps when I would read them my stories, and so they encouraged me to turn it into a book. And so I've worked on it for 20 years, and it's been a labor of love. And
it's an amazing book.
I don't think it's really done yet because I'm still, there's still, so I probably will have an edition that will be added.
I'm sure that they're going to keep this in the Historical Society.
Yes, oh yes. In fact, I had my book signing there. And can you guess the date of the book signing at the Historical Society?
It's got to be the...
It was April 22nd.
Yes. Somehow I had that feeling.
So I want to put a plug in for the Historical Society because
they're wonderful. Mary Zawecki's does a beautiful...
It did become my second home with all the research. And they have wonderful historical maps that go back to the 1880s and historical directories, city directories. The first one's 1842.
Yeah, they used to put them every year, but now they stopped doing those. But
yes,
oh my gosh, it would tell the family members. It was a record.
Right, yes, that's what. Yes, and there's family folders. So if anybody wants to research their families, they can go there.
So I could go and see it. Maybe they have them, the family, or maybe not.
Yes.
I mean, would they start one if there isn't one? I mean, how do they do that?
Yes, you could start your own right there. They encourage that. And then I just had a book signing at the Open Door on Saturday.
Yeah, they're wonderful over there.
They're carrying my book and the Historical Society.
Amy Lane over there is so good.
She was helpful.
Yeah.
So I think that's
you can buy the book. Let's tell people where they can get the book because that's important.
Yes.
Are they selling it at the Historical?
Selling it at the Historical Society and the Open Door.
So they're available both ways.
Right.
And you can always call her. I'm sure she has a copy or two.
Are we just about out of time, or do I have time for one more?
One more thing, real quick.
Well, Daniel David, you've heard of Campbell Road and Campbell Avenue.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, yes, Daniel David Campbell Skirmahorn built our house. We're one of 3 in a row. And he was one of the richest men in the Mohawk Valley in the late 1800s. And he got his fortune from his great aunt. But in order to get the fortune, he had to drop the Skirmhorn from his name. So he was Daniel David Campbell Skirmahorn. So he had to become a Campbell, and that was his great aunt's name to carry on the legacy of the Campbell name.
Oh my God.
So that's another story. In the
That
book.
is a whole other
Came
story.
upon
And
her will.
my mother
Yes.
and dad had a home on Skimmerhorn Road.
Right.
Yeah, and I know where Campbell Avenue
Yeah,
is.
that's
So
right.
yeah,
So
but
it's all of
Skimmerhorn didn't give up, did they? No, that name is still out there. So there are the Skimmerhorns still.
Well, I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and you read the first
I
story.
know, I can't wait to
then
read
you
it.
can just hop around because there's no order to the stories. They're just kind of
I know, I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait. This is so wonderful.
Well,
Thanks
thank
so
you
much
so
for
much for
coming.
having
It's such
me
a
here.
treat to have you here and to
Thank
talk
you, ma'am.
about it. Yeah, Sylvie Breiber, check out her book. And if you love history, and of Schenectady especially, this is a good read. Not only that, lots of pictures too. So it's not quite as, that's not a tome that's all words,
No.
but the pictures
It's fun.
augment.
It's very light.
Augments. Yeah, like
nice before you go to bed.
Oh, let's see. So anyway, good to
Thank
see you,
you,
Sylvie. And we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to find out about the costumer. You know where the costumer is. Let's find out about their anniversary. Stay tuned. Okay, great. I don't know why we get that LG up there. I wonder if that, oh, I didn't pull your hair down. So I'm going to hold this up, and maybe Dick can pull this in, and she'll start telling us about this.
Before we start, I want to compliment Ann for the great program that she has. It's a treasure in Schenectady that a lot of people think that all counties have this. That's not true. Channel 16 is a great treasure. So if you got any money, they can always use it. And please join.
Thank you.
Okay, now in regard to my discussion about pensions, this is a picture that we put out every month, every year. And it's called the Hall of Shame. This is the front part of it. Just to give you an idea about our pension trust, this was last year's, and the pension trust was worth $48 billion. I'm saying billion, people.
And here we are back again. Janice Walls, she's one of my teammates here on the show. But right now we're talking from the Proctor's Historical Committee. And Audrey Hughes is the one that, if you got anything from Proctor's that you found in the back of your drawer in an old trunk,
yes,
contact her, right?
Yes. So first I just wanted to remind people, Proctor's Historical Committee does look for good material from the history of Proctor's. Proctor's is 90 years old, so many of the groups today, because Schenectady was a city that
blossomed.
It blossomed. And it had all kinds of good theatrics here, and so there's a memorabilia out there. And this time of year, we kind of have a reveal, you know, of the new exhibit that we have in our second floor museum. And I have to laugh because I've been talking on your show for a number of years about the fact that there is a small museum on the second floor of Proctor's.
I wish we could make that bigger.
And I know. Well, we'd have to eliminate the men's John.
Well,
I don't know.
Let's think about that. Let's give that some thought. No.
But it's a small museum, but we pack it full of stuff, and we always have new exhibits. Now, as Proctor's is going into their new show season, so it is about Kurt Douglas that I talked about the other day, Kurt Douglas, and some of the other local stars. So, you know, if you've lived in the area, come see. Maybe you know some of these stars that have been from our area.
And we showed a clip from Doug Sales.
Yes,
not Doug, John Sales.
John Sales.
I know who Doug Sales is, but John
and
Sales.
Again, on the pillars upstairs, you'll see again some other local people who've given their support, like Kevin McGuire, people like this.
Maureen Stapleton.
Yes, exactly. That are relatively local of the capital region, and they support the theater because it is their life. So our life as the Historical Committee is to collect information, organize it, and then share it with the community. So there's a new exhibit, second floor, when you come to a show.
A Color Purple. When you come to
yes.
the Color Purple,
That's
come
right.
look at it.
So we'll have the museum open before. So try to remember parking is going to be difficult. Allow 5 more minutes and then you can come in and see the museum on the second floor. And it's also open during the intermission. And one of the things that we volunteers do is to cover these shows. So most of them are covered. So step upstairs, especially if you have tickets downstairs, just
come
walk
upstairs.
Up the stairs.
The other thing I want to mention is come early. Don't worry about parking, because if you come early, go out to dinner, grab a bite in our local wonderful eateries that we have here. Every kind of food that you can have is here.
Anything you want is here. So again, one of the things that we do is to put displays or help put displays into the former Carl Company windows.
Those display windows in the arcade.
Display windows in the arcade. And so right now, another celebration that was mentioned, Costumer, 100 years. So this is even older, more established than Proctor's itself, which is only 90.
Right.
Which is a lot. But there were many, many theaters in the area in that golden age of vaudeville. And if you've ever done a show, if you've had a birthday party, you know, a costume party or something, you go, where do I get clothes? Well, in our area and on the internet, so it covers around the country.
What I was
it is
amazed,
the costumer.
What I was amazed with the costumer is they ship all over the world.
All over the world. All over the world. And one of the nice things, I've been involved a little bit with local theater. Every once in a while, you have a very specific show. For instance, if you're doing, let's say, Wizard of Oz, well, you know, you need the Munchkins costumes, you need the Tin Man, the Straw Man, you need the
That's
Lion.
not something that Joe Fava's going to have in his costumes.
And I know the costumes over at Civic, and they're wonderful, but sometimes you need something very specific. So it's wonderful to fall back on the costume. And the costumer is used on the traveling shows. It is used, look at the way that people love Halloween now. They love Halloween. They started, you know, first time October, there's parties, all of those haunted barns and hay rides, and sometimes you need, especially the makeup. And so I had a list, there is a whole list of specialty makeup. So you've got stage makeup, theatrical makeup, FX, costume, Halloween, effects, horror, nose, devil, fairy, and wedding makeup. So if you ever needed any makeup, go to the costumer. They have 2 locations. One is on Central Avenue. One is just opposite the Whitney Book.
The stockade
area. And there, if you need wigs, if you need specific outfits, you know, from children to sexy adult to costume, anything you want, period pieces, the costumer has those.
I mean, this isn't something you're going to find in every community across the country.
No.
We are so fortunate to, number one, have all the theaters that we have, to have the tour, Broadway tour come through.
That is
now
right.
we have the costumer. I mean, we are a center for theater.
Yes, and as is mentioned so often, the whole idea of your arts is this economic engine. An economic engine. We have a store, the costumer, 2 stores in our area, and what do? They sell costumes and makeup because there is such a need. Again, they can go around the world, but even locally. And we know the pleasure that we have of going to theater, and which is one of the reasons that the Historical Committee exists, to keep all of these memorabilia, try and organize it, put it out for the public as a reminder of what has happened in our wonderful area all these years.
And theater promotes quality of life in a community.
Oh yes, and it's something you share.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with guns or not, You can go to the theater and enjoy a musical.
Exactly.
You can enjoy, and there are so many groups, but so many of them can go to the costumer if you need something special.
Let me just say who's coming on next week, and then we'll continue. We're having the Animal Protective Foundation coming on to talk about their Canine Academy. The Bridge Christian Church, he does amazing things on Crane Street for the community, and not just the church, but everything that he does. We're going to be talking about the West African experience in Ghana. We're going to talk about the makeup curio. This is Jen Dugan, who does the makeup. She's just opening up a place. My Sai is going to be talking about their Halloween camp. More on Halloween.
Yes,
and then we're going to be talking about the TEDx, which is like the TED Talks. And we'll be talking about that. They're going to be doing it over at the MOPCO stage this time. So,
and the other window that is upstairs, if you haven't taken the time to look, represents the creator of Proctor's Theater, F.F. Proctor. And of course, we know he was an acrobat.
When was he
and
born?
All of that, 1850, in Maine.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky that, you know, his mother had to move to Boston, and he got hooked up with a gym, and that, you know, funny things happen in life.
You never know what turn.
No.
You never know what turn your life is.
And the only reason that they moved to Boston, his dad died.
Yeah.
And the mother needed to be with her family, with the other children and stuff. So you never know. So you just go out there and do it. But check out our windows. They're done with care. We have people that have worked for New York State Museum that work on our team. We have certainly trained people. They have an eye to bring information forward, and there's a lot of material. So always check out our windows.
And if you come to a show, check out the windows, check out the museum,
yes,
and have a good time. That's all I can say. And I know the Color Purple is coming up now, and I heard Nathan Lane's coming. I can't wait to see Nathan Lane.
Yes, I just noticed you're wearing the Color Purple today.
Color Purple. I tried. I'm Ann Perillo, your host for Schenectady Today.